Yep, just moving the camera. So, guys, thank you so much for joining me tonight. I'm just gonna go ahead and do. I couldn't find the manifesto or anything Elliott Rogers related, so I thought I'd do some commentary with this documentary. I'm gonna go ahead and provide the link to this documentary that I'm gonna be giving my commentary to. So, let's go ahead and get started. It's about to get started. Let's go ahead and watch.
The story of Elliott Rodger first begins east of the Atlantic Ocean in London, England. Elliott was born on the 24th of July 1991. His father, Peter Rodger, was a British filmmaker and photographer, and his mother, Lee Chin, was a nurse who worked on film sets. It's through their encounters at work that the two first found love before conceiving Elliott 2 years later. His parents also had a daughter. Elliott's younger sister was called Georgia. When Elliott was the age of 5, the family moved to Los Angeles, California in 1996, and this was a move to strengthen his father's career in filmmaking.
That's very interesting, guys. So he seems like he's one of those kids that lived in a nomadic household where their parents moved a lot. To be honest, we've never been nomadic growing up. I've lived in Arizona my whole life. But it's very interesting. One of the things is this is my first time. I don't know too much about this guy. So, I'm barely, trying to educate myself. I would have never thought he was part Asian. I'm not trying to be racist, guys. I know that everything's racist, but, I just didn't pick up any hints of Asian when I saw the pictures of Elliott Rogers. But anyway, let's go ahead and continue.
Settling into their new home, Elliott was enrolled into Topanga Elementary School. By all standards, he was a well-behaved kid, even making a few friends in his first year. His childhood seemingly bright and positive. But it was just after his 7th birthday that his first struggle in life appeared. His mother and father would unfortunately divorce, and this would lead both him and Georgia to split their time between the two on weekdays and weekends. Elliott was already described as a shy and quiet person. He was happy, but didn't have much confidence.
My folks got divorced, but when they got divorced, I was already 23. But I can't even imagine if you're a kid, though, and you're still developing mentally. That must be a toll in itself. I mean, I used to be an interpreter, and I used to interpret a lot of times with psychiatrists with parents, and and a lot of the times these poor teenagers, they drove themselves crazy. I mean, a lot of thoughts of self deletion, a lot of it takes a toll for teenagers when their parents are getting divorced. So I can imagine what it's probably like on somebody like Elliot being a child.
And he would always try to fit in with the cool kids. A
Don't
sudden
we all,
change
guys?
in his home life
We all
would
want to fit in
propel
with
his
the cool kids at school.
insecurities. 2 months after his 7th birthday, his father Peter would introduce Elliott to a new woman, and her name was Sumaya Akabun. She moved into Elliott's father's household shortly after, and before he knew it, Elliott realized that she was now his new stepmother. The two would argue often, and with Elliott not accepting any discipline from an outsider, this would be a recurring problem.
And it does feel uncomfortable when your parents get divorced and they start dating other people. You don't really accept the other person that they're dating. It's very hard. It's kind of cringy. I don't know. Those are just my thoughts.
In the years to come, Elliott lived a relatively wealthy life growing up. He went on several holidays abroad, had access to general and mental health care, and pretty much got whatever he wanted. But despite the money and gadgets that Elliott owned, his friendship circle slowly dwindled into his teenage years.
Guys, this is kind of very interesting because you think like, oh, me being growing up poor, you see these kids are like, how in the world are you depressed? You have all your parents have money, they didn't struggle. I mean, you weren't on food stamps or Medicaid, and he's like, you got to go on vacations as a kid, and I didn't even get to do all that stuff. And my parents tried; they tried their best. So it's not me bashing my parents by any means, but yeah, it's one of those things where you kind of don't understand rich kids, but there's a lot of things that happen that you're unaware. Maybe I'm the one that was blessed. Sometimes when you hear about how kids in wealthy families are like, you do realize you're like, oh wow, I had good parents. Maybe being poor was advantageous in itself.
and he eventually found himself becoming the target of frequent bullying. He still had friends, but not many. The situation would grow more complicated at home too.
That was the
At
same
the
too
age
in
of
high school.
13, Elliot's
I didn't
father and
have much
stepmother had a
friends.
son. Elliot's new stepbrother was called Jazz. In his mid-teens, he started a personal YouTube account called Elliot's Blog, which is where he often complained about his loneliness and reminisced about his childhood.
Elliott Roger here. And here I am at Sarania Park. The most significant place of my childhood.
It was around this time that Elliott began his path of depression and loneliness. Unfortunately, the bullying at school didn't stop for Elliott either. Even at one point, the teasing resulting in Elliott having his head taped to the desk by fellow classmates. It was through negative encounters like this that caused Elliott to move from school to school quite often, and with that, he never made any friends locally. Elliott also started to see a psychiatrist at the age of 16. He was prescribed risperidone, an antipsychotic used to treat schizophrenia and bipolar disorder. He openly admitted in his blogs, though, that he refused to take this medication. After turning 18, Elliott became increasingly isolated. By now, he only had a handful of online friends. He often told his parents that he was unable to make friends in real life, and no girls ever seemed interested in talking to him. Elliott decided that he wanted to improve his life moving forward, and to do this he would try two things. The first one was to learn how to drive, thinking that this would impress women, and the second would be to try and dress better, therefore making him seem more approachable. He desperately wanted to fit into the world and make friends.
And actually, that's not a bad thing, guys. Learning how to drive yourself, and when you drive, I mean, you want to drive like a responsible adult. That really impresses women. You don't want to drive like a crazy wacko. There's all kinds of guys that, they put their girlfriend in their crotch rocket and they do crazy stuff like go 100 miles an hour down a busy street, and the girl's just terrified. You don't want to do that. You want to be a, gentleman. It'll when you drive conservatively, it's gonna impress people a lot, not just the ladies. And dressing better, guys, you're definitely gonna pick up girls if you're dressing well.
So along with his new car, he changed his hairstyle and brought a bunch of new clothes. It was noted by his classmates, however, that although he did buy a new car and new clothes, he never actually tried to speak to anyone or make any friends. Instead, he would sit in his car on lunch breaks and expect others to make the first move. His evenings and weekends still continued to be spent alone at home.
I'm guilty of that. So when I've had time on work, that's what I do. I just go and sit in my car by myself. But if you're trying to do all these things, you gotta approach women. You're gonna have to shoot your shot, and you're gonna fail. But that's something he thought that, oh, and a lot of the red pill people make this mistake. Oh, if I get muscular and get all this money, women will automatically come. Nope, it doesn't happen that way. You have to go out there and approach women and talk to them. Especially that part where the red pillars mention game, game, game. That's what they least talk about. And they tell men, go ahead and get buff and become a millionaire. And guys, you gotta learn game. Homeless people, stinky homeless people. I'm not trying to demean homeless people, but smelly, poorly dressed homeless people are able to pick up women. How so? Right? There has to be another element to that.
As well. He would spend his time either playing World of Warcraft or Halo with his three friends James, Philip and Addison. And more or less, at the age of 18, Elliott recognised that he had spent most of his latter teenage years angry at the world. Upset that he didn't fit in with friendship groups, despite never trying to. And even more importantly to him, he started to become enraged that he had never slept with or even had a girlfriend for that matter. Elliott's perspective on other people had shifted to become more toxic too. He openly admitted in his journal that whenever he saw a couple together holding
Not having a girlfriend is the norm today. I don't get it, but anyway.
hands or kissing, he would feel either intense sadness or rage. At one point, this resulted in
Well,
Elliott throwing hot
sadness part,
coffee
yes,
over a
but not
couple that he
rage.
saw kissing in a Starbucks car park.
Especially when
And
you're in
while
high
that
school.
action seemed hostile and completely out of order, it was only going to get worse. In the year of 2011, Elliott was 19, and on Saturday the 4th of June, he moved to Isla Vista, a community on the coast of Santa Barbara, California. He moved there to attend Santa Barbara City College, joining a private residence with 2 other men. It was almost instantaneous that Elliott's bitterness and loneliness extended into his new life, though. Within a week, he was frustrated with his housemates, and by the end of the month, they'd moved out. The situation with Elliott's next pair of housemates, though, was even worse, and coupled with Elliott's racism, he would argue with the two daily, almost getting into physical fights on a couple occasions. The longing for a girlfriend continued too. He would often get so angry at seeing couples that...
Okay, guys. So I just want to go ahead. I just had a thought. So, nice car, well dressed, good family. Well, the divorce, right? I mean, of course that's rough. But you're going to college. You're gonna make things happen right in the future, and you have a job. Things are going in the right direction. You gotta practice gratitude daily because somebody like this, you're headed in the right direction, and you gotta thank God. I know you probably don't believe in God, but I do. But I know that some of you do believe in God, and you have to count your blessings. And that's the problem with society today. They don't count their blessings. They only focus on what they don't have. But this young guy at this point, he just has some things to work, but his life is pretty much going the way it should.
it would become a normality for him to run back to his room, sulking and crying. His life continued to worsen in 2012 too. It was this year that he dropped out of all of his classes altogether, not being able to stand the sight of others falling in love. Elliott also spiraled into the trap of gambling with lottery tickets. He believed that getting rich by winning the lottery would give him all of the female attention that he desired, and so in the first week of February 2012...
Wrong choice, guy. I mean, I know he's not with us anymore, but really, can you imagine he's gonna attract gold diggers winning the lottery if he were, if somebody wins the lottery, you're gonna attract gold diggers. You're not gonna. Is that really the attention you want? Really?
Spent over $100 on lottery tickets. Not surprisingly, he didn't win. The next week, though, he felt more confident,
you don't
so
say.
He spent $500 on lottery tickets. No dice, but maybe 3rd time's the charm. Week 3, he spent $700. This too, though, ended in a loss. He had nothing to show for the $1,300 he spent gambling. And even worse, he didn't accept defeat. He felt like he deserved it, that he was cheated away from his money.
No,
Elliott
you're
dipped
just an
into one
idiot
of the
who got
worst bouts of
conned
depression in his
out of
life
their money.
shortly after this. As spring break flared up in Isla Vista, he spent most of his time in his room, refusing to try and socialize. Angry, sad, and alone. And for the times that he did leave his house...
You want to make friends and get a girlfriend, but you're not doing jack. You're not even leaving your room. You guys, I can tell you this. I mean, knowing a lot of people from California, a lot of them have, are really sociable. A lot of them have good social skills. You guys, you have to be really screwing up, or in his case, not even trying. He's not stepping up to the plate. He's not even swinging the bat. I mean, he's not even going up, much less swinging the bat. I mean, he's not even in the batter's box, right? So you're not even trying. This guy has no excuses. He hasn't, at this point, when you're like this, you have yourself to blame.
He'd walk by himself, ranting to his video camera about his life.
Hey, Elliott Roger here. Right now I'm just taking a walk through the park in this really nice, secluded area. I'm just contemplating about my life and how unfair it's been lately. Ever since I started desiring girls, but they never desired me back. Life has been a living hell since then. Right now it's spring break. Everyone else my age is out having fun with their friends and their girlfriends. Here I am, taking lonely walks through a park.
In April 2012, Elliott's long...
Okay, I just want to go ahead and talk about how this guy's talking. It's like, oh no, it's like Eeyore. I don't know. Everything's slow. Everything's bad, guys. It's just a victim mindset. It's a pity party. All when you talk like this, it shows that you really, really are just. It's not my fault. It's everybody else's fault. It's like, poor me, poor me. You could hear the violin in the background. I mean, seriously, when you he doesn't sound enthusiastic about life. You could tell in his tone he's not excited about life. He's just some dude who was just looking at the bad. And I mean, the guy, I mean, you have a job, you have a car, you're going to college, things are going in the right direction. You're just being a big chicken and you don't want to go out there and make it happen just because you didn't have some success the first time you struck out. Guys, people are going to strike out. Sometimes you go, and I'm using this baseball analogy, and I'm sorry if you guys are unfamiliar with baseball, but this guy's not even trying. And if you're not trying, he only has himself to blame at this point.
Childhood friend James also decided that enough was enough. He found Elliott too radical, too negative, and so, with that said and done, he called the friendship off. It was at this point that Elliott now considered himself entirely alone, friendless.
Okay, so you cut off the friends you do have. When you're cutting off the friends you do have, you should be asking yourself, why? Is it valid? That's what he should have been asking himself. Because to be honest, if it's something stupid and petty, you have no right. You have no right to be just calling off any relationship, right? Friendship, or whatever it is. You're accountable for what you're doing
in this cold world. Late one September night, Elliott drank an entire bottle of wine, or at least he tried to. He ended up spilling an entire glass all over his laptop, completely destroying it. This meant that the next day he had to go to Best Buy to buy himself a brand new one. While he was there, he had to wait a few hours for the store to prepare his order, and so during that time,
not everybody has the money to just go to Best Buy to buy
this
a
would
laptop.
Be a turning moment for Elliott.
Your average American can't do that.
He had previous thoughts of acting out the day of retribution, a time where Elliott would claim vengeance against a woman for denying him of a sex life. And it was here in this firing range, after he took his first few shots, that he asked himself,
"What am I doing here? How could things have led to this?"
While his internal question at first sounded hesitant, by the end of the day, he had made his mind up. He had come to the conclusion that humans are just brutal animals, and if he cannot thrive among them,
all these
he would have to
generalizations.
destroy them all. In his manifesto after this day, he wrote,
"I didn't want things to turn out this way. I wanted a happy, healthy life of love and sex. But if I'm unable to have such a life, then I will have no choice but to exact revenge on the society that denied it."
No, this punk, all he was doing was, oh, poor me, I failed just once, and I failed miserably, so now I'm going to do is sulk in my bedroom and not even try again, and blame society for my shortcomings. No, you guys, I'm just not buying all these excuses. And I'm not trying to sound mean, guys. It's the truth. Come on, you gotta take accountability. You gotta find some sort of way, what am I doing wrong? And go out there and make it happen. No excuses.
Elliott purchased a Glock 34 automatic pistol in December that year. And again during the following spring break, he purchased another firearm, a Sig Sauer P226. On the 20th of July 2013, Elliott attended a party where he again tried to interact with girls. He'd been working out in his bedroom for the previous 2 weeks, and he thought that this would increase his chances. But again, it ended in him being ignored. In his drunk state, he sat on a 10-foot ledge where other members of the party...
See, that's the problem with a lot of this like I mentioned, a lot of the red pill content that these young men are consuming. I'm not saying they're all bad, right? I mean, at least it's better than the black pill where you're doomed, it's over. That's so pessimistic and awful. I mean, that's not attractive. You gotta be positive. While you're working out, getting a six pack and getting all this money, and you don't bother to work deep down in the inside on yourself as a person, as a human being, guess what? some fat dude like me is gonna be getting the chicks and you're not. That's the truth.
Party were hanging out. This escalated into an argument where he then tried to push girls off that very same ledge. He failed, and instead he was pushed off the ledge by other men who had intervened. This resulted in Elliott being beaten up, and eventually he would need surgery to repair his broken...
Guys. You know, you have to think about it. It's kind of hilarious. I mean, you have a dude that's trying to be violent, fails miserably, and they push him off the balcony. I'm not trying to endorse violence, but you have to kind of just laugh at it. But you guys, violence is never acceptable. It's not even in self defense. It's not like you want to take pride. Oh, I beat up this dude that was trying to beat me up, and be proudful about it. Besides, when you get in a physical altercation, there's no winning. Even if you win, that person that you beat, they're gonna want to come back with a vengeance. But anyway, let's continue.
Leg. This, according to Elliott in his manifesto, is what actually made him start meticulously planning his day of retribution. But with a broken leg and some preparations to make, it would take some time.
Okay, see what I mean? He ultimately lost his physical altercation with these young men. And yeah, I mean, there's no winning in fights. See, you have some psycho whose ego got bruised, and yeah, they're gonna want to get payback.
Fast forward, and it is now the early months of 2014. In those early months, which would be the final months before the planned attack, Elliott spent most of his days outside of his room. He went on hikes in the mountains of Montecito, took long strolls along the beach, wandered to the parks around Santa Barbara, and watched the sunset in many car parks as he contemplated his own existence.
Hey, Elliott Roger here. I'm just sitting in my car right now, after watching that beautiful sunset descend beyond that hill up there. Enjoying a nice vanilla latte. I've been doing a lot of thinking about how sad and unfair my life has been. All because girls haven't been attracted to me. I've had to rot.
I'm pretty sure plenty of girls, the guy's in shape, he's dressing well. He's styling his hair pretty well. He has some fat, and, just at first sight, many women would actually find him physically attractive. But guess what? Once they start talking to you, dude, they're gonna just find out, ew, bye, loser. I'm sorry, guys. I'm not trying to make fun of people who are down on their luck, but it's the truth. If you have a crappy personality, sorry, it's just gonna be a no-go.
In bleak and sad loneliness. I mean, you give a chance to all these stupid, obnoxious guys that I see you walking with, but you don't give a chance to me. Why not? I'm such a magnificent guy. I'm beautiful. You can't deny that. I'm civilized, intelligent, sophisticated. I have a sense of style. And yet you girls don't see it. It's not fair. I deserve them more. I don't understand you.
Yep, nice guy effect. But I'm a nice guy. Oh, I don't do anything bad. Just, it's somebody else's problem. I try to get the affection of me lady, but fail miserably because I fail to work on myself. You're practically invisible because you don't even try, dude. I mean, you went out there one time, you messed up, and you sulked. You brought all that negativity, try to go back out there to make it happen. And guess what? People are just seeing that repeat of negativity. And guess what? You get mad, you lash out like a child, you try to push off women off balconies, fail, and, the dudes gang up on you. So, yeah, this guy's just, I don't know, he's very emotional. Logic is down with this dude. I'm just gonna say that, a lot of these people that are like this, they say, "Oh, I'm logical. I try to get everything." I mean, to be honest, let's switch it around. Let's use that, logical. Try to be logical like they are. If somebody is speaking in a manner that they're negative, they're deep down on the inside, they're a narcissist, or they think they're better than everyone else, because you kind of get this at this kind of point in time of just like listening to this dude right now, and you bring that out to people. Guess what? They're gonna just see what you have deep down on the inside, and you got to work on yourself. When you're like this, you got to work on yourself. You got to start being positive, and you got to start finding how to find ways, how to make it happen, how to get past it. Do you need therapy? Do you need counseling? Do you need somebody to help you? This guy's just at this point, he's getting the physical, all the physical and all the other stuff, such as the inward beauty of all of us that we can all project to the world. This guy's just not. He doesn't have, he hasn't developed the inner beauty. Let's just put it that way. And it's sad because life has played him a crappy card, and it's hard to develop, positivity when things have gone so bad. But again, if you practice a little bit of daily gratitude and counting his blessings, that could have helped him out. But the thing is, this guy isolated himself. He could have sought people that were positive, that would be more than happy to take them by their wing and help this guy out. But those are just my thoughts. Let's continue.
Girls, it's like your sexual attraction is flawed. It's perverted. This world, it's so twisted.
But anywhere he went, he would see couples together, and this outraged Elliott. During this time, he would record himself in and around his car. He would upload these videos to YouTube, but no one would pay attention to them.
Hey, Elliott Roger here. I'm just sitting in my car right now, enjoying the view of the beach.
Nice Beamer.
And my view has been ruined.
My brother has a Beamer
by
that
this
has
sight
the exact
right
same
here.
interior.
In front of me, sitting right there on that bench, is a young couple. I was enjoying such a nice
Beamers
view
drive really
until
nice.
they came and sat down and started
Really
kissing.
nice vehicles to
This is
drive.
the reason why life isn't fair. Why can't I experience something like that? I have to show everyone why I hate the world. Because no girl would do this with me. I hate them.
Okay, very important. When you're saying these things, no girl wants to be with me. Yet. That 3-letter word is so powerful. You haven't succeeded yet. You haven't been able to get where you want to yet. That word, guys, is very, very, very powerful. Because when you're down in the dumps and you're just sulking in negativity, I can't do this, I can't do that yet. You got to tell yourself, finish with yet. Very powerful word.
I hate them so much. It's not fair.
Don't hate others. Don't hate the player. Hate the game, guys.
Life is not fair.
Of course life isn't fair. It's not.
Only 1 week had passed since that video had been uploaded to YouTube when police came knocking on Elliott's door. Someone had watched the video and they were suspicious that Elliott was unstable. They called a health agency, which in response called the police, and they in response went to him. Police interrogated Elliott outside of his bedroom door, questioning him on if he had any suicidal thoughts. He played the situation down though and said that he was doing just fine. It was a very close call, because if police did go into Elliott's bedroom, they not only would have found his pistols and a plethora of ammunition, but they would have also found his manifesto too. Unfortunately though, they never entered.
And they probably didn't have a search warrant to enter his house. That's one of the things in the United States. Cops can't just go just because they have a hunch or they have a suspicion that you might have something going on inside your house. They can't just go in there. They have to go to the courts and get a court order to search your home. So I just wanted to go ahead and say that for the non-Americans that are listening to this video.
Elliott's bedroom. Elliott's radicalized thoughts were at this stage solidified, and the severity of his emotions were only getting worse.
Hey,
I just wanted to say, these things where the cops go to your house and just check up on you, they're called wellness checks. So it is something that police officers do, that they go up to somebody's house and they just check and see how you're doing. I forgot to add that part.
Elliott Roger here. I'm up in the hills in Montecito right now. It's truly a beautiful day. But, as I've always said, a beautiful
Guys, California
environment
weather is beautiful.
is the darkest
You have
hell
a Beamer, you're going to college,
if you
you
have
have
to
a job,
experience it all alone.
you're dressed well.
And sadly,
You guys, this
I've been
guy,
alone for a
I'm
very
just seeing
long
all the
time.
things that he has.
And
I
my
mean,
problem
California is
is
expensive.
girls. I don't know why you girls are so repulsed by me. I dress nice. I'm sophisticated. I'm magnificent. I have a nice car, a BMW. I'm polite. I'm the ultimate gentleman. Look at how fabulous I look. And yet, you girls, you never give me a chance. And that's just such an injustice because I'm so magnificent. I deserve.
Like I mentioned, even though the sane part, is saying, he's going in the right direction, but dude, like I've said it a million times, homeless guys can get laid and you can't. It sucks, but that's what it is, guys. There's that component of game. He just doesn't have it, and like I mentioned, you could be doing all the right things. Like for example, like my favorite movie, Moneyball. You could be the New York Yankees that have all the money in the world, but you can't buy any World Series titles. You just can't.
Girls, much more than all those slobs I see at my college who are somehow able to walk around with beautiful girls. I mean, look at me. I'm gorgeous. But you girls don't see it. I should be the one with the girls. But you never give me a chance. It's such an injustice. I don't know why you girls hate me so much. I've always wished I could ask you this, and this is my way of asking you this. This is the only way I can ask you.
Elliott's plans for the day of retribution were complicated and violent. The day was actually spread across two. He planned to first drive to his father's house where he would kill his stepmother and his younger brother, Jazz. He was always frustrated with Samaya, and so for him it would be sweet revenge. And as for Jazz, he didn't want his younger brother surpassing him as a man, so he too had to go. He would only do this if his father was out of town for the week though. He didn't want to harm Peter. Next, he would drive back to Isla Vista with the family SUV, and take the lives of his housemates so he could use the apartment.
Man, that is heartless. When you're trying to kill a kid, you're. I know this is gonna sound probably hilarious to some of you, or probably not gonna take me seriously, but the only thing I'm saying to myself when I listen to things like this, I'm just saying, you're the devil. Seriously.
As a place to lure strangers in before beating and killing them. George Chen and Chang Yuan Hong were currently living with Roger in their shared school apartment. He would then on day 2 target the Alpha Phi sorority, a sorority he deemed as the most beautiful dorm on campus, filled with hot blonde girls. After he was done with them, he would then switch to his SUV and head over to Del Playa, before running over as many victims as possible, and then turning the gun on himself. Elliott Roger saw himself as a god, deserving of much more than he had on planet Earth. In the final pages of his manifesto, he wrote,
I am Elliott Roger, magnificent, glorious, supreme, eminent, divine. I am the closest thing there is to a living god.
This is the thing, guys. It sounds like a narcissistic woman, it's always, for some reason, I've always hear women, talking about, oh, I'm so beautiful and all this stuff, right? And some of it, is not bad. I mean, as long as it doesn't go to your head. But at this point, this guy's so obsessed about his appearance, It's like he's idolizing it at one point. Probably not, but it seems like it, at least from what I was observing. It's like he's just giving himself a god complex, like where he feels that he's entitled. Truth is, nobody is entitled. Nobody.
Humanity is a disgusting, depraved, and evil species. It is my purpose to punish them all. I will purify the world of everything that is wrong with it. On the day of retribution, I will truly be a powerful God, punishing everyone I deem to be impure and depraved.
His preparations for the day of retribution wouldn't quite go to plan, though. His plans for day one to execute his stepbrother and stepmother would require his father to be out of town, and while he originally did have plans to do so, that was cancelled last minute. The consequence to this is that Peter actually and unknowingly saved his wife's and his son's lives just by being home. As a result, Elliott ditched his plans for the SUV too. His BMW would have to do, but before he could execute the rest of his plans, he would have to make and upload one final video to YouTube.
Hi, Elliott Roger here. Well, this is my last video. It all has to come to this. Tomorrow is the day of retribution. The day in which I will have my revenge against humanity. Against all of you. I'm 22 years old, and I'm still a virgin. And it has been very torturous. It's not fair. You girls have never been attracted to me. I don't know why you girls aren't attracted to me, but I will punish you all for it. I don't know what you don't see in me. I'm the perfect guy, and yet you throw yourselves at all these...
Is it me, guys? Or do you guys kind of get a vibe? And I also think he kind of sounds like, what is it, Patrick Bateman from American Psycho. He kind of sounds like it, huh?
Noxious men.
Like I try to
Instead of
sound
me,
sort of fine.
The supreme gentleman. I will punish all of you for it. You will finally see that I am, in truth, the superior one. The true alpha male. Yes. Well, now, I will be a god compared to you. You will all be animals. You denied me a happy life. And in turn, I will deny all of you life.
Dude, you didn't even try. Nobody denied you, Jack.
It's only fair. I hate all of you. I've waited a long time for this. I can't wait to give you exactly what you deserve. Utter annihilation.
On the 23rd of May 2014, Elliott began his rampage. He started by stabbing his two housemates, George Chen and Chang Yang-hong, to death. Their friend Wei Han Wang was visiting at the time, and he too was killed, the three men receiving 142 stab wounds between each other. At 9:17 p.m, Elliott then uploaded his final video to YouTube, titling it Elliott Rodger's Retribution. 1 minute later, he then sent his 137-page manifesto to...
Why do his roommates have anything to do? I mean, if there's anything, I'm pretty sure they probably would have encouraged him if he was really good friends with them. They would have tried to help him out, but I don't know.
34 people. This included both of his parents, other family members, his therapist, his former school teachers, and his childhood friends. His therapist contacted his mother within 5 minutes of the email being sent, and very quickly she reacted by calling his father Peter, and then the police. Both Peter and Li Chin raced from their homes in Los Angeles towards Isla Vista, but by then, it was too late. Elliott was already in motion. He headed to the Alpha Phi sorority with the intention of shooting everyone inside, but when his knocking on their front door went unanswered, he retreated back from the property towards the street. Instead, Elliott shot 3 Delta 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 sorority women who were nearby, killing Cooper and Veronica Weiss, and wounding Bianca de Kock. He then drove further into town to Pardal Road, before he proceeded on foot and fired several rounds into Isla Vista Deli Mart, killing a student named Christopher Michael Martinez. After killing Christopher, Elliott drove away and continued his rampage, shooting at several pedestrians in drive-by shootings, while striking others with his BMW. As he backed onto himself, Elliott got into a gunfight with 3 responding officers near Little Acorn Park. He suffered a gunshot wound to the left hip before speeding away. He was closely pursued as he fled. Still adamant to cause as much carnage as possible, he crashed into a cyclist. In his rage, though, he crashed his BMW, and there was no way to flee. Elliott then fatally shot himself in the head, finally bringing an end to his rampage. Police officers would find...
I don't know about you guys, but I've kind of course, people like this are just flat out cowards. I mean, when you go in and do that and then you take your life, it seems kind of cowardly. I know you're probably reasoning, well, they're not going to take me alive, and it's kind of like some sort of ego thing, right? But you probably find it, well, they're not. I'm not going to give them the satisfaction of humiliating me by arresting me and throwing me in jail and locking me up like an animal. And yeah, you could think that way, but this guy is just flat out deranged at this point.
And Elliott Rodgers dead behind his steering wheel only seconds later, and with the cyclist next to him, they would think that both at first were suspects. Both of them would be handcuffed, but a few minutes later, the cyclist would be cleared of any suspicion. Police would soon discover 3 bodies that night, and then another 3 the next morning. Christopher Martinez, a graduating student at UCSB, was pronounced dead in the Isla Vista deli. He was described as a really great kid that had a bright future ahead. Katie Cooper and Veronica Weiss were both killed outside Alpha Phi sorority house. Veronica was a sweet and friendly young woman who loved sports as much as she did her friends. Katie Cooper was known as an unforgettable smart girl. She was studying art history and archaeology. The following morning, police would find the bodies of Weihan Wang, Cheng Yuan Hong, and George Chen at 6598 Savile Road, No. 7. Weihan Wang was academically gifted in computer programming, and he was looking forward to visiting Yellowstone National Park for his 21st birthday. Cheng Yuan Hong was both smart and kind, known to be always willing to help people out. And George Chen, too, was sweet-natured, a volunteer at an elderly neighbours organisation when he wasn't seeing friends or tutoring other classmates. On the day after the spree, a candlelit memorial was held in honour of the victims. This was followed by a memorial service at UCSB's Harder Stadium, which held over 20,000 people in attendance. Elliott Rodgers' father Peter would then go on to state television to share with the world his anger, despair and confliction. He would then go on to admit that, sometimes, due to the pain Elliott caused, that he wished his son had never been born. Despite the widespread damnation to his actions, Elliott Rodger would soon become known as the King of the Incels, a portmanteau of involuntary celibate. Incels are an online subculture of people who define themselves as unable to find a romantic or sexual partner despite desiring one. It is there that Elliott found sympathy and forgiveness for his struggles to both romantically and socially find his place on this earth. But Elliott is better defined as a misogynist, a racist, and...
I feel so bad for the families of these young people that lost their lives because of this person, and also Elliott Rodgers' family, his dad, and his mother and his brother. I mean, because they had to go through the grief. Imagine all the things that they must have felt. I really feel bad for his family, because they clearly, they were probably just, they were bummed out, that this had to happen, that they were related to somebody who was crazy. I'm not saying that they were, of course you love your family, despite whatever it is that they are, but, when you have family that's just like this, I mean, it is a little embarrassing. I mean, so I definitely, I definitely feel bad for his family. I mean, I'm not trying to belittle them or put them down in any way. I just feel for them. It's hard to swallow. Getting a little gassy because I was drinking sparkling water.
A narcissist. He had a strong prejudice against women, clearly spoke against Asian and black people, and described himself to be a god above the rest of mankind. But there were other factors at play here too. He was a man severely struggling with mental illness, something that he had been struggling with for a very long time. And he was also very lonely, not just seeking relationships, but friendship too. With a split family and moving around so often, it's easy to see that both his chances to find companionship and overcome his mental obstacles were thwarted. It's thought-evoking to wonder if this massacre could have been avoided entirely if he had received the correct response in his earlier years. That does not diminish his actions though. What he did is unforgivable. But it does underpin the severe consequences in not addressing mental hardships early on in childhood. And the real tragedy here, the lives of 6 others lost. All who had no play or part to Elliott's suffering or rage. Elliott's 137-page manifesto is available online, by the way. It's kind of made this case pretty easy to research. I'll leave the link if you are interested in it below, but a word of warning, it's pretty exhausting to read. Thank you again for watching another case by Coffee House Crime, and as said...
I can imagine. Just a guy repeating the same old script. I'm magnificent, I'm beautiful, and blah blah blah. Everybody else is mean and bad, and they're depriving me, and I think I'm some sort of god, and I have the right to, take somebody else's life away. That's horrible, guys. Anyway.
Just a small announcement to make. I wanted to take a moment to thank you so much for supporting me and...
Okay, that's probably where it ends, guys. Guys, there's no excuse when you're somebody like this. I understand when you're going, and you're not in a good family, you're in a broken home, maybe your parents are going through a divorce. You go out there, try to make friends, and you fail. At least at the very beginning, and then and you try to get women and you fail at that, and that's just life. It's a series of, you're gonna fail till you succeed, and that's something that guy just never got through his head, and that's one of the things you just have to keep in mind, that you're not going to be successful at the very beginning. I remember as well, I remember when I was in high school in my freshman year, I didn't start making friends on day one. Forget about it. As a matter of fact, I tried to get close to some of the kids, I remember, and they were even, asking me, why are you just following us and hanging out with us? I'm like, what? I'm just, at the time I was 14 and I was just trying to make friends, but of course we're all going to go through that, but you even talk to your parents about it, like, hey, I'm struggling to make friends at school, and of course your parents are going to say, oh, just give it time, you will in due time, so just relax. And yeah, you just have to heal yourself, and you can't be stuck in this negativity. I know a lot of people, in the incel and black pill community, they're just, oh yeah, I'm just like this and I'm being logical. No, you're not. You're negative, and you think you're being logical, but the fact is, just by the way you speak and address yourself and how you see life, you're very emotional. And when emotion is high, logic is down. You're not the logical person you think you are. You may think you're logical in your own head, but you're lying to yourself. You have all these facts that you have, but at the same time, you're not seeing the other facts. So you're biased in the facts that you're giving. So that's what I just want to go ahead and say, guys. This person, they just never developed the right mindset to begin with. They when you're stuck in that way and you refuse to see that you're just blatantly negative all the time, you have an ego. And don't get me wrong, we all have egos, but this guy, he clearly is one of those persons that, I'm right, everybody's wrong, and the truth is, you're gonna be wrong. Accept it. It's very important to keep that ego in check. You gotta be humble. Otherwise you'll never move forward. And even though he thought he was moving forward, but he was just missing that piece, like I mentioned, there's more to life than just the physical. So I could keep going on, guys, but it's getting late. I'll see you in the next video.